Okay, I think that's working. Fingers crossed. I'm streaming, just so you're aware.
Okay.
There's no the only camera's looking at the tabletop, but...
Okay. I'll leave you alone.
Hi, lopsided butterfly. How are you doing? Alright, so what we have here is the Ahsoka Tano duel on whatever. I kind of don't care. I only got this up because I wanted Grand Admiral Thrawn. But it made me think of Iron Man's Hall of Armor. So, what we're going to do here is basically start prototyping out a concept version of that. Hello, Schneck64. I'm realizing that I kind of want this camera source to be flipped. Yeah, now my hands are at the bottom. I think that's preferable. Okay, cool. So, I really like this shape, and I think that this geometry is super cool. I'm going to be basically trying to pull this play feature out to make the tiling look nicer. That's going to be our first big thing, and then we're going to go from there. Yeah, alright. So, probably actually where we're going to start, I've got one-ish copy of the most recent Hall of Armor Lego set here, but I bought a second one, yay! So that way I'll have enough of these things for what I'm hoping to do. So we're going to go ahead and throw those together real fast. I'm curious if the audio's okay. Let me know. I don't have enough peripherals on my computer at the moment to be able to run my nice microphone while I have the streaming stuff set up. So, if the audio is particularly bad, let me know, and we can mess around with it together. Hopefully I'm going to get a desktop semi-soon, and we'll be able to run the nice computer again. Okay. Alright, we're just building 3 of these real fast. Where are my assembly cups? I will be right back. We used to do music on stream, but I'm realizing that when we did that, I had Spotify installed on my computer, and I don't have that at this point. So let me know if you feel like the music missing is meaningfully detracting from the stream, and if it is, I will start a Spotify download. But for the time being, I'm just gonna start building, I think. So, how have y'all been? It has been a kind of insane year, huh? Hanging in there is pretty much the exact correct description for how I've been doing. I've been trying to juggle so much, and the channel falling kind of by the side was unintended. I'm hoping to get a slightly better balance going on. Or at least figure out what I can effectively sacrifice to get back to prioritizing the channel. Because I'm a big fan of doing this. It's just hard to do when the world's on fire. But I guess y'all probably are also familiar with that. So right now we're just in the kind of pre-construction phases. So what we're going to be doing here is I have multiple Iron Man Hall of Armor models. I assume if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. But I've done a video on at least one of them on my my bigger one that I use for showing off my collection specifically of Iron Man minifigures, because I have a lot of Iron Man minifigures. And I have them all together in a big Hall of Armor that I've done a video on. And then I have a smaller one that is, like my explicit goal was to make it as reflective of the Iron Man 3 movie posters as I possibly could. And now I got the, this thing is from the Ahsoka Tano Duel something or other from the Ahsoka TV show. And I got it because I wanted Grand Admiral Thrawn. He's probably my favorite Star Wars character. And initially I had not been planning on even building the set. I was just going to parts it out for my collection. But I was Lego starved because of reasons, and decided that I was going to assemble it, and I was actually really impressed. There's this really cool geometry that has this section and this section built out at an angle, as you can see there. And I thought that was really stinking cool, and because I have literally one thought in my head at all times, it made me think of the Iron Man Hall of Armor. So we're doing another version of that right now, or we're going to be trying to at any rate. But this time, the goal is going to be specifically to design a version that can be put into a building in my city. I haven't decided exactly what direction I want to take that, if I want to do like an Avengers compound or Avengers tower or something, or if I would rather try and make like Tony's Malibu mansion with the lab in it, or you know, there's a couple different ways I could take it. But this is the best size that I've found, or this thing is a really good sized base for trying to get it into the base plates that Lego's modular buildings are built on. And so we're going to use it as a sort of jumping off point to do something kind of interesting and cool, and hopefully get a unique but still really recognizable take on that sub-archetype of Marvel building. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Hey, thanks for stopping in for a minute, Butterfly. That was really, really appreciated. There is, like, grease on my parts. Don't take that out of context. Oh, I know what that is. That's annoying. Okay, well. I am moderately sad because my camera person has moved to Hawaii, which is, you know, suffice to say, not where I live. And I really miss her because she would have been very good at fixing some of the mistakes that I'm making in setting this up, because I think the camera needs to be tilted up a little bit. Yeah, right there. Okay, then we've just got to do these. They're going to be like this. There we go. So learn from my mistakes here. Don't accidentally get Gorilla Glue 2-part epoxy on your Lego pieces by putting Warhammer minis that have that epoxy on them into your Lego containers to dry. That, you know, beginner error. Alright, there we go. These are mostly surplus parts. Okay, so now I have 6 of these. I think I'm only going to end up using 5. But, you know, better to have too many of something than not enough of it, I guess. And hey, we'll have to mess around with it. Now we got a whole collection of these, and we're going to go about trying to get them onto here. So first thing that I want to be trying to do here is pulling out this play feature thing. You're supposed to stand a couple of people with lightsabers on there and have them duel it out, and that's not something that we're about here. So we're going to start by pulling this construction out, I think. Yeah. So I am actually kind of interested, don't want to lose those, in this gear mechanism as a possible way to lock something's rotation in. Because if you see, it's got these studs here on the top. I guess it's slightly more clear on this side. And when those studs are lined up, you know, can show this like this. If you line those studs up, and then you could lock them in, and then the stuff that they're attached to are rotated and kind of locked in place. That's a technique I'm definitely going to come back for in the future. I don't think it's a technique to use on this particular project, but I feel like it's got potential. Okay. Alright. Just gonna pop these on out. Where's a brick separator? Come on. There we go. Alright, then pop this, that. Then, if I can get a nail under there, there we go. There's more of these. Because I don't terribly want to use that. Now, we've got this. Alright, I'm going to have to mess around with how I want to handle that. We've got this here, and you can see it's got this nice angle. I think I've got wedge plates sorted. Oh dear. All right. That might not be the bucket I wanted. Okay, well, I guess we're prototyping size but not color. So this is that same angle. And I think we should be able to make this look nice all the way up here. Okay. No, that would have to be there. Huh. So the one problem that I'm seeing here is covering this gap nicely. I might just have to keep this slightly off portion that they've got going on in the official design. Which would not be the end of the world. But I think if we could get this attached just like right there, yeah. That's a little bit closer than I think that wants to be, isn't it? Would it have to be offset by a half stud, it looks like, maybe? Okay. Give me a 1x1 brick, just for proportion testing. Yeah, okay. So that's a little bit less clean than I would like it to be. Okay. Let's pause on that sub-portion here, and let's mess with one of these sub-assemblies, if I can get it out cleanly. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Alright. So what we're going to start with here is seeing if I can decrease the size of this outer edge here. Hopefully without everything disintegrating on me. So right now this lines up right here. What happens if I... So if I bring that in, it's going to be up a chunk. So I guess then the question is if we could use these same plates with rails to fill that gap? And I think the answer is a solid maybe. So we would just move that over. Do I have one more of those? No, I don't, so I'm gonna have to use the miscolored one, but that's fine. So that gives us this little offset here. And then can I fill that with, oh, almost. So the only thing I'm struggling with here is this very outside edge, it looks like. Come on, behave yourself. So basically I need to Alright, so I guess I've case tested the slope there. I just need to get that. Literally, it's just that last stud, it looks like. So where do these line up? Okay. Let's just test that. With an elbow, I think. What am I looking at? Right there? Yeah, right there. Okay. And then this would fit here. That's not bad, I don't think. Then the rest of this would line up to right there. So I guess the question is, do I want or even need it to come all the way out to here? I think the answer is yes. Can I fill that gap effectively at all? I would need like a half. I guess the other option is I could just use a shorter rail segment. Let's see. And then we want that offset by a half stud, maybe? Because we don't want it there. And if we do it like this, that leaves a pretty huge gap. So let's see, if we do it like that, it's still got, I think, more gapping than I would love. Okay. So the next question is, can I just use this big one? I think I'm actually going to have to reach in and so where would this have to be to line up effectively here? Interesting. Okay, can I pull it down and over? I think I'd have to come all the way down to here for that to look good. Yeah, I think it's gonna have to sit right about there. Which isn't terrible, I don't think. It's a little bit rough. In that it is cutting into this circle down here. Although if this gets mounted up on top, that's not really a problem. You know, if we have this like here. But yeah, I guess the question is, how much do I need it to be aligned right there? Because, you know, that's pretty. So I could just pull this stuff off. You know, we go back to this layout. And then I could pull off some of this stuff that's going on back here. I'm just going to pop that whole assembly out, honestly. So, what did we have before? It was set up like this? Yeah. Like that. How would I want to do this? I had a test brick. Where did the test brick go? The big problem with Lego projects is that the desk gets messy very, very quick, and then I start losing things. So that's a slightly wider gap. From here to here, I think it's being exacerbated a little bit by the fact that I only have this in the lighter color, but that's still a little rough. Again, I want it to be like offset ever so slightly. So maybe what I have to do is build a portion here that's all mounted offset by a half stud, which honestly is not even that awful to assemble. You know, we got just some jumper plates. What is that? 4x2, 4, 6, 8. So then we just fill it in like this. And that does line up slightly prettier with this far outside edge. It's going to leave a little bit of a gap here, but I might be able to just address that with a snot technique if I'm a little clever with it. And then we have that half stud offset out. And then we want to get this mounted like right there. No, that's not quite what I'm looking for. It wants to be and Lego really likes their pirate ships right now. So I've got this offset. Do I want it to be that offset though, or do I want it to be? Gosh dang it. There we go. All right. Do I actually want it to be that offset? Or do I want it to be offset in this direction? Let's just... boom. Okay. Do I want it to be offset up and down? Like this. Come on. There we go. And then that would give us a closer alignment. Or the last option is, you know, throw Lego parts across your room. That's always the best option, right? No. Once you've got that piece back, offset it up a half stud in both directions, like that. And that is when we have to pull something out like this again. To fill those gaps. Come on, thank you. You know, we end up with the half stud gapping in either direction, which is not ideal. But, like, that's not terrible in terms of filling the space, right? That's not bad. And then we take this and it goes in here. Okay, so this piece has to come off. And then we want this to go there, I think. Yeah. And that fills the space pretty effectively, I think. Then we have something that lines up like there. How is this wanting to line up? Yeah, that might work, honestly. I think this goes somewhere like right here. Okay, so we got more half stud gapping, I think. That piece is just not gonna do the job for me. I'm borrowing you. Okay. I like this idea. I think it might work for me. With a little bit more tweaking. So we've got this, lock that into place there. Did I have 3 of these out or just 2? then I literally just pulled that piece off. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay. Then this. Comes in and has to be attached underneath here so that it still lines up. It doesn't like that. Okay. Give me the smaller one! I love this piece. I think these are awesome. But we just throw one on there so it lines up. Might as well prototype this in the matching color. And like that's not bad as far as filling that space goes. Plus me, it actually kind of takes advantage of this piece not lining up right. So I kind of like that. Let's fill the rest of this back in just a little bit. Where did that bracket go? Like that doesn't look half bad, I don't think. And then we just parrot that on the other side at some point. This little bit of gapping kind of bothers me, but I don't think it's like the end of the world. Okay. And we can even put this back on. Awesome. So the question is then, what do we do with this space, right? We're gonna need some sort of tiling to go on here. Just tile that all the way across, and then if I can figure out what I did with my longer tiles, there we go. We fill that in. That space isn't bad. Then we have this unsightly gapping problem. And that's trickier to deal with. Because we could fill in that space, but then we have this huge L-gap mess. It's not gonna fit from all the way over there. I mean, this could... No, that's not gonna work either. Huh. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the big make or break for this layout. Because this does fill most of this space pretty well. This up here is not what I would want it to be. But I'm also not 100% sure how I would fill that. And it's going to be off to the side. If I can fill this space, that's what's gonna determine if this works. I I might could, instead of using the two 4x4s, I could use 2x8s. Let's see if I have some of those. Yeah. They don't have to match the color because they go underneath. And that could save me a piece as well. So for this top layer, we have these offset by one stud. And then on the bottom, it just goes all the way across. Then we have, how was that? That. And then what we could do is we could offset the 2x8s. That's the part of this that is helpful here. So we can do that. And then we got this number going on. We fill the same space the same way, more or less. I'm gonna have to pop this out, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. We will see. And this just kind of fits in, yeah? Okay, so then what this would look like is we have one that comes in here towards the outer edge, and one that comes in this side towards this edge, and then that connects in like that. So that does create this gap over here, which should be really easy to fill, I think. Yeah, it should just basically be this. And that's honestly gonna just be pinned in place, right? Yeah, it's held by the jumper beneath it. And if I needed to, I could get another jumper to get all the way to the edge. So that gap's fairly easy to fill. Although, did this get... I think I moved this piece over one. If I do that, maybe the play is actually to swap this upper layer one for a 2x6? Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so this... Wow, that is a chewed up 2x6. Then this is going to have to come in a little bit, I think. Like right there should be good. And then I'm going to just pull that off for a second, because we got that lined up like this. And then I could fill this space with 5 studs worth of tiles. And that wouldn't even have to be on an offset. It would just sit flush. Well, would it? I think I could get it to, because I would just need to use these. How do I want to do this? Just beef it up with another layer. I'm just grabbing the most poor, bullied plates out of my collection today. I don't think you can see it on the camera, but some of these definitely look like they were in the mouth of me or one of my siblings at some point. So that sits flush, and then you just want to throw, literally anything in to cover this gap. And that's not bad. Hey, the last beanbender. I have absolutely no clue who Daniel is today. Or who Daniel is. Sorry to disappoint. Huh. So I guess the next question is... I'm just going to keep iterating on this. Do I want this to come all the way over? Because that fills that ugly gap we were looking at a bit ago. I don't know who Tanya is either, dog. I could maybe fill this gap with a bracket if I try that. Yeah, so this is not the right color, but it would fill that gapping. And then we could something like that. Thank you, Beans. Yeah, that's not terrible. I don't know. We could also do this piece and then try and fill this the other way, like I was doing earlier. I wish I could afford the Death Star. Yeah, that might be preferable, because I could do this. Fill in this space. And then you can make all of this just a matching width. Make it level all the way across, basically. We want this to stick out a little bit so that it can still connect that. Yeah, something like that. And then that fills that space pretty much optimally. And then instead of whatever I was doing here, hello, miss. You gonna come up? Hi. How was your nap? Hello. Smile, you're on camera. That's not going to be a good place for you to stand, love. Where are my 2x plates? Nope, please don't chew on stuff. There they are. No, those are bricks. Half of my Lego storage solution works perfectly, and half of it does not at all. We're gonna have to revisit that at some point, lads. Here we are. So then this could come all the way under now. And then, oh, that needs to be a little bit higher. And this could just come in here. Okay. Yeah. That fills in really, really nicely. Hello again. If you're going to chew on stuff, you're going to go back on the floor, just so we're clear. So where'd that 1x1 tile go? There it is. Yeah, I really like that. I think that looks really good. Let me grab a base plate real fast. So if this is going into a modular building, it's got quite a lot of wiggle room for me to get walls figured out around it, which is good. Honey, no. No, ma'am. Hello. Hello. Hello, miss. You're so pretty. Yes, you are. You want to snuggle in my lap? You can snuggle in my lap. Your dinner time is not for half an hour, so you will not be getting fed sooner than that. So I guess the next step is actually that I probably don't want to do this with two... Well, actually, do I? I think I do. Alright, so let's build up this other side now. Yeah, that cat took me forever to build out of Lego. But it only cost $65 and a trip to the local shelter, so the more you know. You can build anything out of Lego if you are dedicated and slightly crazy enough. Okay, I need one more of these tiles. Then we can just slap that across the bottom. I really only have 5 of this piece in this color. That's incredibly annoying. Well, I guess we are just prototyping anyways. You know, I can't promise that I won't throw a Lego egg at you. Except for legal reasons, I will not throw Lego eggs at anybody. I'm not actually planning on Lego poultry product violence. That's probably the first time in human history that anyone has ever uttered the phrase Lego poultry product violence. And then over on this side, we just need to recreate this thing. And tear out this brick. Mr. Gorbachev, tear out this brick. You know, I knew being a streamer was going to involve being insulted, but I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. You don't gotta be mean, Miss No-No. Although, if you are the IRL friend that I think you are, I suspect there's nothing I could do to convince you of that. Boom. Okay, and then I need another 1x8 tile here. Did I not already have one of those out? Weird. Ta-da! We filled in that space. We're gonna have to get a couple of these pieces in dark gray, but that's fine. Then we're gonna pop these off, because the next step is figuring out how to place and connect these on this. And I think we're going to end up only using 5 of them. So we're going to try and place these kind of like this. Potentially want to try and start by expanding these out. So let's actually pull this off real fast. Then pull this off. Okay, do I want 6, it looks like? Well, I actually probably just want to do this. Yeah? No, I don't. Interesting. Okay. I'll just connect those. Where did my other test there did it go? Okay, so I probably want to figure out a way to get these in, which means figuring out a way to get this off, although yeah, those are not going to be a problem. That piece is easy to remove. Then anything farther back than that is probably going to end up just being wall, so that's good. Okay, now I want a 4x6, it looks like. That. Just pull these out, actually. And pull this up. And reinsert these, I think. And then we just fill that space in with that. Again, these are not the color that I would like them to be eventually, but that's fine. Then we just fill in this space with a couple of these, and we're golden. All right, so I have to figure out how I want to have these positioned. So I want them to look more or less like they're lined up on a curve, but something that I did with all of my previous hulls of armor was connect all the armor modules, these things, together on a curve, and then try to retroactively connect them to a base. And I think that approach is not what I want to do here. So we're going to try and do things a little bit differently this time. I was experimenting with this a little bit the other day, so I've got some ideas here. Okay, so if we pull those out, because they're not even going to be visible underneath these anyways, I can put the 1x4s back on there for attachment purposes. And then we have this. And that's a pretty okay layout. I honestly don't hate that. I do really like having these line up with this extension there. I think that looks good. So then the only question is we got 2 more of these. We want them to continue the curve somehow. So how do we get these attached in a way that looks good? And that is the question of a lifetime, isn't it? Okay, so let's pull these off real fast. Might pull these 2x3s out, and then we can sub them in for these to fill that gapping just a little bit more. Because then what we can do is we can pull out some jumpers. For everybody's favorite building technique, offsetting things by half a stud. Because we are faking an elegant curve here. And so if we've got that, then instead of lining that up on, we can line that up half. And I do think I like that. I think that looks really, really good. Let's get the other one on here. Obviously, at this point, we're just kind of typing layouts because I'm going to want a more stable connection than that long term. But I do very much so like that positioning. So now I have to figure out a way to get this on here. And that is going to be the hard part, isn't it? As per usual. I want to get it more or less right there. So I don't think I want something that enclosed. That would be taking it a full 90 degrees. I don't think I like that. But I also, well, I don't think I want it to be at the same angle as we have these ones on that are connected to these outer chunks. So, first things first, we can potentially, if we need to, pull these two out, because we can potentially obscure that gapping underneath this. That is a thing that we can do. This is the part that I knew was going to be tricky, chat, and I've been putting it off. Kind of like that position. The question is, how do we connect it there? Okay. I think we're essentially replicating this angle, but from this direction instead of from this direction. So, if you don't know, there's a couple of easy asterisk ways to build Lego on an angle, and then there's some ways that get substantially harder. So here's how we're going to demonstrate this. First way we're going to look at, if you've got this piece on this turntable, all the studs on this upper layer, let's see if I can get a different color actually. Yeah, here we go. So all of the studs that are on this gray piece line up with the studs on this red piece. And so if I were to connect directly below this point, it would line up with the stud beneath it. And if I were to connect directly below this stud, it would line up with the stud beneath it. But the distance between the yellow and the green there is the same as the distance between the gray and the red, because they're both directly across the center. So I can rotate this a little bit and still connect with the stud directly beneath the center. You don't necessarily need a turntable to do this, but you can use a turntable if you want. Does the turntable connect? No, it does not. Okay. So, something we can do here is prototype out positioning by doing studs under here and then connecting this rotated. And you can see, can we get an autofocus there, bud? Yeah, you can see that that's rotated, but it's connected. It's not spinning. So let's mount this up here. And like obviously it's raised, but that angle is not bad. That offset's not bad. It's a little bit wide from where I'd like it to be. But that's where we get to bring in jumpers, right? So let's grab a couple of those. Let's give it a test. So we can mount that there. And that's not bad. That, I think, is very, very close to where I want that to end up. Now, the hard part here is that a lot of the lining up, or rather, one of those two studs that we used to prototype this lineup is going to be back behind where these available studs are. But one is going to be forward. So let's test that just a little bit. Because this should also work for locking this in place. And that should work not too terribly for actually mounting this up. So we're gonna pull our offset insert here back out. I wish those two pieces would stay connected. And I think that I should be able to just pull this off, which means that I'm actually gonna just swap this for a dark bluish gray one here. Then I can, if I've done my testing correctly here, should be able to just swap these two and pull this whole thing off. And that should connect. Beautiful. That's what we're looking for. And then this goes back in here. And we immediately are going to have problems because of what's behind it, but that's fine. The important thing is that that all lines up the way that I was expecting it to. Awesome. Then I'm going to get promptly distracted by doing a little bit of something else. We're just gonna fill this little bit of gapping there. And then, right, what's going to have to happen back here? This and this, I think, are causing problems. Is that... I think that bracket at the very back is also causing problems. So we're just going to pull that off so that we can get this test aligned. Oh, all three of them were. Okay, cool. So we're just going to pull this up. Can I just have something to fill this gap so that it will stop distracting me for test purposes here? Okay. Now we've got this connects to there like that, and then lands in like that. All right, so I do very much so like that alignment. The one problem is that it's doing some more gapping that I don't love. I wish we had friggin' wedge pieces that were tiles all the way across without being 45-degree angle exclusive. So the next question is just if I can get a version of this that isn't going to intersect with that, and I don't think that I'm going to be able to. Okay, let's just pull this out on this side, and we're going to do the same layout here. And then we can just get this connected up. Is that one a problem? No, that one is not a problem. Okay, so we can leave the very outermost one in at the moment. No, we can't. I lied. I lied unintentionally, but I have lied nonetheless. All right. So that gives us our whole spin here, our whole curvature. Each one of these is going to have to be connected across the top to whatever walls I put in, and that's a bridge I'm going to cross not right now. Let's start by seeing if I like how this lines up just straight up smacked on there. That's not bad. I do kind of like that. I don't think I want the whole thing to be able to spin. I don't know, do I? We're definitely not gonna put this together in a way that ends up having a partial spin. But I don't love having it spin. I wish there was a way to just have the arms around the outside edge spin. Okay. What can we do here? How much of this do I want to preserve? I guess that's a good starting point. I kind of like the whole thing, honestly. We're just gonna tamp this down for the time being. And if I decide that I want to lock it in place later, I can. I don't mind having it be able to spin. And then we got some Iron Man armors that we can throw in here. So part of the question to ask here is if I like how raised up they are. I kind of do. I don't hate it, I don't think. I might look at redesigning these though. Just a little bit. Let's pull off. Oh, I have a spare one. Yeah. Okay, so we can set this to the side, preserve kind of the layout that we've got going on, and we can mess around with this now. So I'm just gonna start by prying off the bottom bit here. So to start with, we've got these pieces that we're going to want to have attached, but we can work those into the assembly for the middle instead of having them just attached to the base below with these bad boys. So we can connect these into just like this. Like so. And then pull this out, connect it across the back. I don't know if I like this thing that they did in the most recent Hall of Armor with the whatever this piece is as the backing. It adds slightly more depth, but I don't think it looks as good, and yeah, I'm not a fan. Okay, so I think maybe the first thing I want to do is pull off some of this arbitrary structural stuff. And if I pull this off, we could get a... I mean, theoretically, this relies on me being able to find where I sorted them. Here we are. Two by 4 plates. And if we connect this across, that in the back and these in the front, boom, now we've got an assembly here. I do wish I had some of the rounded 1x4 plates, although those might be closed studs on the ends, which would be less useful for me. Now, I think I maybe want to try and... Well, do I want to try and shorten this? I don't know. I'm gonna burn that bridge another time. We could do this across here to get a filled out base that is kind of Well, 3x4 on the bottom there, which I do kind of like. Got that there. And then we want to have this to connect the full frame. No. Control yourself. Now that does have the problem that we're gonna... Hello again, kitty. Now the armors are gonna look super short in here. There's no... I stand corrected, there is space for you up here. You definitely said something before, bless you. So I think we're going to end up with kind of a raised, elevated bit for where the armor is going to stand no matter what. So let's try adding a little bit more detail to the front of it and see if that helps. I heard that. What are you doing back there? So, bracket time. And not in the boring sports ball sense. So we can do that, and then where'd the brick go? Here it is. And then if we wanted to, we could do something like putting these across the front. Kind of close off the way that it looks there. And then the armor fills in a little bit more of that space. I like that a lot. Alright, I will be right back. No, your job is to entertain the chat while I go give wet food to Kitty. No. Are you talking about sports in my chat? think what I might want to do here is actually use the rounded off front, but then I could probably use the plates with rails to add a little bit more detail and also kind of fill in some of that negative space. I can't believe that you panicked and your first thought was, I'm going to talk about sports ball. So if I do this, and it's got this extra little railing on the side, then that plugs up some of that negative space kind of nicely. And I think it would about line up with the rest of the armors. Let's just grab a bracket and test that. You defend yourself with sports ball. Sports ball. You know that taking sports ball is like having your, or taking HRT is like having your sports ball surgically removed, right? Correct response. Based chatter. So that would, it looks like, fill in that space pretty much perfectly, except that it's going to make keeping the filled floor tiling harder, which is annoying. All right, I think I do want this to be locked in place. This is going to go into a building for my city. I don't think I want it to be spinning. So now I have to surgically remove the spinning part of this. Come on. All right, fine. We will take away the entire front. There we go. I think I'm going to surgically transplant this whole assembly here onto the dark gray. And I think we're just gonna find a couple plates to lock in and stop the rotation. No, Thrups, stop. I failed. Joke canceled. gonna have to find a more permanent way to attach these at some point, I think. Okay, transferring. Huh. Okay, so we're gonna have to mess around with this for this to work. Which means Technic brick time! Yeah, we're gonna have to put this in here. And then find some 1x2 bricks. Which I fortunately have an ungodly number of. You can then attach that to there, and then the rest of this can lock in place on here, even though it's not going to connect to the base at all. Which honestly, I'm kind of down with. It's going to make this look way cleaner. In fact, I don't think I have parts I would need to make that look better. I'm going to at some point, though. I will. Mark my words, we're coming back to that. And then that just locks in. Boom, perfect, gorgeous. That is so fragile. Oh no. We're gonna come back to that later. That's a problem for later, Maddie. Also, I put this back in sideways for some reason. But yeah, I very much so am a fan of that. You know, I like that. That layout looks good. Like, spacing-wise, all of this looks how I want it to look. Hi, it's my hair. So the one thing that I'm disliking at this point is that the front of these are super undetailed and honestly kind of gross. So how do I want to fix that? That is very much so always going to be the question here, isn't it? That and how do I get the rest of the base filled in exactly the way that I want it to be? Let's just pop the front of this back on so that it will look slightly nicer while I'm thinking about this. Yeah, so I want to fill in here and here. Oh, camera's almost dead. No, I can't believe you didn't tell me when you saw that the camera was flashing the almost dead sign. I mean, I guess I could start by seeing just how this looks. How does this look? It technically fills in some of the space. Stop it. Hold this direction. I don't think it's quite doing what I'm wanting it to do, though. I could maybe do, if I pull this piece out, I could then put this piece in. There's no way that's legal. There's no way. Oh, that's not bad. How does that work with this thrown on over top? Okay, yeah, that is bad. Dang. Up here, this part should be easier to fill, because I think I should be able to just throw in a 1x4 tile. If I have literally any in dark bluish gray, come on. Okay, I think I should be able to just do this and then have it look... Okay, maybe we throw in a 1x2. Which is going to have to be connected to something somehow at some point, probably. But then we could throw in this at the back and fill in that space. Or at least fill it in enough that it's not, like, obviously empty. Or maybe... just a 2x2 will fill in all of that space. Or enough of it. Yeah, that's not bad. Could we even maybe do... Where's this could maybe even go like here and fill in. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, that's fine. So that side is going to be easy to fill. For the most part. Corner plates. Where are corner plates? That looks like it's been through a blender. Okay, cannot be a plate. It's gonna have to be a tile. Which I'm definitely not going to have the right color, am I? Lovely. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, here's an option. Okay. No clue what I'm thinking there. Right, we're just testing this spatially at this point. But I think getting a tile, corner tile in here, will fill that whole space that occupies. Yeah, that looks good. Hi again, love. There is increasingly less space for you up here, isn't there? Alright, I'm going to update all of these to have these slightly better... No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that right now. Careful. Okay. So I'm curious if I can... What are you doing over there? Okay, that is not happy if I do it like that. Honey, no. Kitty, stop. You have lost on top of things privileges. Where did you put it? You are a piece of work, you know that? Alright, my camera's almost dead and I probably need to go get dinner, but thank you everybody who tuned on. I'm glad to be back in any capacity, in some capacity. And I'm hoping to stream tomorrow to do the rest of my D&D set that I never finished. Yeah. Thank you so much and peace out.